Ahoy, Skipper!
All right, here we go. Everybody's on deck. Or at least it looks that way. Wow, we got quite a crowd here waiting in the waiting room, so that's good. All right, well, we're gonna try and keep this call to an hour. I had some complaints about the calls were going too long and people have other things to do. So if you guys have questions, use the little thing to raise your hand or just wave at me so I see you. And we'll try and get to your questions, and I will do my best to like not ramble on for hours today. So sometimes one question and I can take off on a rip and go for 20 minutes. So I'll try to keep them more concise. All right, so anybody got anything before I start in? I do have something pretty important to talk about. So, but anybody before we get going? All right. Well, here's what I want to share with you guys today, and it's part of analysis. It's a part that we haven't talked about in a long time. So anybody new, this is going to be fresh content for you. And it's basically the competitor analysis. This is like if you're going to create a marketing campaign, you can do it the hard way or you can do it the easy way. The hard way is to start from scratch, knowing nothing, and just guess and try and figure it out. The easy way is to look at a major brand competitor that's already done that and ride off their coattails. Now, I'm not saying copy them verbatim, but you can take their structure and you want to tune it into your words. So don't just copy them word for word. But one of the things in the competitor analysis that you're meant to do is identify at least like three main competitors. And I know I've got some people that say, well, I don't have a competitor. Well, I think you probably do if you look real hard. And in some cases, you might be right. You might be doing something just totally obscure no one's ever done before. Not very often, but it's possible. So if that's the case, find a competitor that's maybe not a competitor, but somebody that's doing something along the same line that you could basically swipe their formula and alter it to your own. And one thing, like I'm working with quite a few apprentices right now, and several of them are actually building campaigns. And one thing that we'll do, we'll start in on a campaign style. And this is something I want you guys to understand. There's no one size fits all on a marketing campaign. There's no one thing is right and one thing is wrong. The the key point is whatever you do, it's got to be in alignment with your audience. If you can make the messaging align with your audience, there's so many different angles and tacts that you could take to pull it off, and they're all fine. They're all good. I would rather see you do something, that was maybe a stretch than nothing at all, because you'll learn everything that you do, you're going to learn from it. But like with the apprentices I'm working with, we'll be like 50 to 75% down the road creating a marketing campaign, and then they'll show me someone else's campaign. And they like it and they want to copy it. I'm like, that's perfectly fine, but that's probably something you should have done first. Right? So you because here's the thing. There's a lot of shiny objects out there and there's a lot of squirrels. And if you're not set and focused, they're going to get you. The squirrels are going to eat you alive and you'll never get anything done. So once you decide on an angle, stick to it and ride it through. Build the campaign, even if it's not perfect, but build it and test it and get a result. Even if it's a bad result, just get a result. And then once you've got a result, you can decide, do I want to try and sharpen this sword or do I want to retire this sword and get a whole new one? And in a lot of cases, you might be surprised. Something you thought was going to work really well gets nothing. And sometimes something you weren't real sure of and kind of iffy knocks it out of the park. So test a lot of stuff. And don't think that you're just going to create one campaign and that's going to be it for the rest of your life. Things change, markets change, technology changes. So for you to stay relevant, you've got to stay out in front. Whatever your market is, you are a market leader, or you should be. If you're not, you're going to get left in the dust, especially right now. Right now, we've got so many new technologies and new things coming our way that you really need to press a little bit harder to stay out in front. The thing with most markets is just knowing what you guys know right now about AI. You're so far ahead, it's ridiculous. You could go out on any stage and speak about AI at a very basic level, and people in the audience would think you walk on water. They would just think you're awesome. I would take advantage of that because that's not going to last forever. There's going to come a point in time, not very long from now, that it's going to be common knowledge. And the market is just getting flooded with tools. And most of them are junk, but even the people that are flooding the market with junk, they're making money. And you might be sitting there looking at this like, well, I'm not making money, yet they are, and they're just flooding the market with junk. And what that should tell you is you're probably just not doing anything. Because if somebody can flood the market with junk and make money and you can't, that probably tells me you're just not doing anything. And keep in mind, this is a business, no matter how you slice it, and you can't do business without attracting customers. That's part of business. And for us in the digital space, that's all about traffic. Don't think you can just put a website up and you're going to make money. It's not going to happen. I'm just going to be real clear and upfront, and I'm just going to tell you, putting a website online and making money magically is not going to happen. I haven't seen it yet. And unless you happen to buy a domain that's an exact match domain of something that is really hot or trending, and you just get traffic off it. But that's not the norm. It's very unusual. So you're going to have to work at all phases of this game. You're going to have to do the research. You have to understand what your market wants. If you're just building things in your head, thinking a market's going to magically appear, that's a pipe dream. That's not going to be productive in 99% of cases. You have to figure out what do they want, and either that aligns with what you have or you need to build something new. Just that simple. You have to have something that a market wants to be successful. And this is all in the research process. And once you identify that, and sometimes you can look at competitors. You can look at a competitor and say, oh, wow, this guy just came out with this new service and he's promoting the crap out of it. He must be making money. That's a fair assumption. If you look at a competitor and they're running ads and they've been running the same ads over a long period of time, that's a pretty damn good clue that it's working. Even, it might not be working as good as it could, but it's a really good indicator that it is working to some extent. And this is the stuff you want to do. You don't want to just go into business blindly. It's a very difficult game playing darts in a dark room that you can't see the dartboard. And that's what you're doing. If you're going about it that way, that's what you're doing. You're playing darts in a blackened room, and hopefully there's not other people you're throwing darts at in that room. People can get hurt. So, you gotta start at the research. And if you do the research and you discover you've gone down the wrong path, that's a really good time to alter course. I see so many people that get an idea of something and there just flat isn't a market for it. And they spend all this time and energy and effort and they're in creation mode. They're creating content, they're creating products that there's just flat out no market for. And then they get to the point of, okay, well, it's time to get some traffic now. So then they spend their money on traffic and nothing happens. Or they didn't figure out maybe there is a market, maybe that market would buy their product if they could explain it, but they haven't figured out the language of that market. Sometimes that market doesn't speak your language. They have a language of their own. And if you go in there and you don't understand that language, there's no way that you can deliver the message that you need to deliver to get them to understand the value of your product. And again, that's a point of failure. These are big points of failure. Not identifying a profitable market, segmentation. That's like it's number one. It is really number one in the business process. I have a precursor course to number one, which is the freedom formula. And the only reason that is freedom formula is pure mindset. That's all it is. It's pure mindset. It's you getting clear on what you want, how you're going to get it, how many things you have to move. And then you can take that and you can take those numbers forward and you can look at markets and say, is this a profitable market that's going to get me what I want? And if it's not, just take a step back, look around, and pick one that is. But that's all in the very beginning stages. That should be before you do a thing as far as creating anything. That's where you start. And at that point, then you move forward. Then you start creating. Then you start building, and you know who you're building it for, and you know what they want. And it all becomes really easy. And then at that point, once you're to there, once you've got it figured out, you got the market figured out, you figured out how to talk to them. Now you need to bring that message to the market, and that's traffic. That is what they call advertising. Marketing is creating the message. Advertising is putting it in front of eyeballs. And sales is the evil, nasty part of asking people for money that none of us like, right? And if you do good marketing, you don't have to do the sales part. The marketing will sell the product for you. Guaranteed, if you do the marketing right, it will make sales superfluous. It'll just not matter. So, but the advertising, a lot of people get mixed up on this. Marketing and advertising and sales is different. Marketing is figuring out the messaging, it's figuring out the mousetrap. Advertising is dropping the mousetrap in the middle of the mice. That's bringing people to your message. That's going out and paying to get eyeballs. And sales is that nasty, wicked part we hate of asking for money. So those are the three things when you get to that point. And if you're doing any of those three things before you get there, it's going to be really expensive because you can buy all the eyeballs you want. If you don't know how to talk to them, nobody's going to buy. So it's just going to be expensive. And I don't know about you, but I don't like expensive in my ad budget. I like cheap and effective. So that's the way it works. And most of you that have followed me for a while, you know that I cheat like hell when it comes to traffic. I don't go out and buy the traffic. What I do, and this, guys, listen up. This has worked for me really well, and it's made my life super easy. I go out and I find the guy that has done all the shit I don't want to do. He has gone out, he's done social media, he's built a massive list of my ideal customer. And he provides something different, or maybe even an affiliate offer. And I find that guy and I make a deal with him. I say, "Hey, we can help each other out here. You have an audience, I have a product. If you bring my product to your audience, we're both going to make money." It's a win-win and it's a no-brainer because guess what? If he doesn't sell anything to his audience or his audience doesn't buy any of my product, guess how much I owe him? Zero. He gets nothing. So, when have you ever found an ad place where you could, let's say, go to Google, pay per click, and say, "Hey, Google, send me 50 grand worth of traffic, and if I make money, I'll pay you. And if not, I get it free." How, you ever seen one of those opportunities? Well, I just showed you one. They're out there. That's how I do it 90% of the time. There's only been a handful of times where I actually went out and bought traffic and did all that. And in a couple of cases, it worked well. And in a couple of cases, it didn't. But no matter how you slice it, it was not as appealing to me as what I just described. Going out and finding the guy that's already done the hard work that I didn't want to do. Because when you buy traffic, it's a mathematical formula. And I know a lot of you don't like math, so it's not going to be a fun game for you. But you're paying a certain amount, you're getting a certain amount of people, and you get what's called a conversion ratio. If you get 100 people onto an offer and one person purchases, that's a 1% conversion ratio. So you have to look at how much profit was in that one sale. If you made $100 on the one sale and it costs you $1 a piece to get those people and you had to pay for 100 of them to get one, that's a break even. So again, it's all simple math, but I know some of you don't even like the simple math, and that's okay. But it's all math. And business is all math. It's all mathematical. So you should at least get comfortable with the simple math. And I think most of you have, I'm not even going to say a calculator because you have a phone. This phone thing has a calculator right on it. I know y'all have one. So the simple math is pretty easy. But that's what you're looking for. If you're going to buy traffic, that's what you're looking for. You're looking for how much is it going to cost me to get 100 people to look at my offer, and how many of those people am I going to be able to sell to? And there's another complication to this math, the simple math formula, is there's a certain amount of people that will buy it when they see it the first time. And this is where a lot of people make the error of calculating on the first swing. Because first swing is very low. If you get 1%, you're probably doing pretty good. But coming back around and follow up, your sales are all going to be in the follow up. That's why it's so important to give away free lead magnets and build your lists. Because if you're doing a buy or die, I call it a buy or die scenario. Let's say you buy traffic from Google, they hit your offer page, you don't have an opt-in, it's buy or die. Here's my offer, take it or leave it. If they leave, you just wasted that dollar. They're never coming back. But if you offer them something free, let's say you offer them a lead magnet, and I'm gonna give you an example of a lead magnet. Let's assume that you have a system, a three-step system, kind of like ACT. Let's say you have a three-step system to get your customer what they want. And you say, hey, I know what you want. I have a three-step blueprint to get you there. I'll give it to you for free. You can download it right now and you can see the three steps and how it works. Now you make an infographic. The technical name is infographic. If any of you have Canva, they have a whole section for making infographics. And they've got all these templates. Just pick one that you like and plug in your three things. And now you have a visual graphic that's like a PDF to give away that's got your three-step formula on it. Now you give them that. You say, just opt in, I'll send it to you. Now you have them on your mailing list. Now you send them to a thank you page to deliver the item. There it is. They can click to download it. And right below it, you say, here's the PDF. It clearly defines my three-step formula. Now, it's not enough for them to figure out how to do it. It just shows them that you have a formula and you know what you're doing. That's its whole purpose. Your purpose is not to go into everything about how to do it. It's just what it is, not how it works. And then you say, by the way, I'm doing or I just did. I like that I just did because it's evergreen. I just did a webinar and I've recorded it. And I'm going to give you free access to it because I walk you through the three steps and explain exactly what this means. Now, do you think anybody's not going to watch that? If they've gone far enough to reach out and say, yeah, I'd like that three-step blueprint, now they've got it and they're looking at it, do you think they don't want you to explain how it works? This is a perfect formula for grabbing people's attention, getting them to opt in, building your mailing list, and taking them through a sales process, a sales presentation. This is your marketing. This is your sales presentation is your marketing. You're walking them through. What you're doing is you're demonstrating your expertise. You are becoming an expert in their eyes, and you're showing them how to get what they want. You're showing them that your product's going to deliver that result for them. That's where you create demand and desire. You also explain any objections. How they're not objections, you reverse the belief and turn it into a benefit. And then and only then do you make an offer. And some people will take your offer, boom, right there on the spot. If you've done a good presentation, boom, sale, done. Now you're into fulfillment. That's a whole nother can of worms. But at least you got some money, right? The key is to get the money. So that is the formula right there. Now, the follow-up is even more important than the formula, and I'll tell you why. The first real big webinar I did with SitePop, we had about 400 or 500 people sign up. I got a good promoter. He promoted it well, and he got about, I think it was almost 500 people to sign up for that webinar. Now, only about 75 actually showed up for the live webinar, and we only made 3 sales. I think it was 3 sales on the live webinar. And I was really disappointed. I was like, oh God, I didn't do very well for this guy. And I apologized. I called him up and I'm like, dude, I don't know. I gave it everything I had. And he started laughing. He goes, you did great. He says, you did great. He goes, we never expect many sales on a live webinar. And I'm like, really? He's like, oh no, it's all in the follow-up. So we did the webinar on Wednesday, He closed out the special offer on Friday night at midnight. And I was literally sitting at my computer Friday night at like 11:30 watching sales one right after another pour in. I'm like, wow, this is freaking awesome. And then I called him up first thing Saturday morning and we were talking about the numbers and, everything looked great. And he goes, now we go for round two. And I'm like, round two, really? So he extended the offer through Sunday night. And again, Sunday night, 11:30, I'm watching these sales just pour through. And and then he did a final offer Monday morning that extended, not as good an offer, but still an offer, still allowing people to come in. And we tallied up at the end of the day, Monday, we had $52,000 in sales from one webinar, 1 hour webinar with me just presenting the product. And I was blown away. And also, I was hooked. I'm like, now that's the way you do it. That is the way you do it. And it was all about the follow up. It wasn't about the buy or die. If you guys are selling buy or die, I'm pretty sure what you're doing is dying. You can't force them into a buy or die. You've got to be able to follow up and effectively close those sales. Because believe me, the sales are in the follow up. And that's your marketing. You literally have to have your marketing set up to do that or it will wear you out. If you're just doing sales, you don't have marketing, you don't have a formal presentation, and you're just doing one sale at a time, it's gonna burn you up. Like I can't even imagine getting up in the morning and go, "Oh my God, if I want to eat today, I have to sell something." Like that would be ugly. You don't want to do that. You want an automated presentation that says, "Hey, I need to get up this morning and see how many people I can see how many people I can give something free to." That's all you have to do is give away free stuff, good stuff that people want, and then let your marketing do the sales for you. Let your marketing do all the hard work. Let it do the follow up. If you guys have Kartra or Go High Level or whatever you got, they all have follow up sequences. They all can automate this for you. You got to do it though. You got to spend the time to do this. And if you do it good, you only have to do it once and then it'll run. I've got marketing campaigns set up that have been running for over a decade. And, I'm not really out trying to set the world on fire, fuel and traffic to them, but they continuously make money. They continuously drop sales in my inbox without me even knowing what's going on. Like, wow, where'd that one come from? So the more of those you have, the better off you'll be in the long term. And I've got these things that I've built and built over, 2 decades. So I have so many mouse traps out there that I'm always catching mice. So don't get discouraged if you're just getting started and it doesn't seem like it's working. You got to set a lot of traps. The more you have, the more your future will benefit. Any questions about the process, the system? The whole point of this was look at your competitors and look at the mousetraps they're building. You don't have to, just sit and bewildered and wondering, okay, what do I do? Look at what they're doing. And be careful though. Um, it doesn't mean they're right. Don't just copy them because you see them do something and you just automatically assume they're right because sometimes they're not. So be careful with that one. That's a landmine you want to be aware of. Use your head. Ask yourself, based on the ACT program, does this make sense? Are they targeting a highly profitable market? Are they talking about what that market's interested in? And if they are, they did the hard work for you. Just copy it, put your own twists to it, put your own words to it, and let it rip. There's a lot of people. This is part of what I was getting into with some of my apprentices, bringing other marketing campaigns. I can identify usually where they came from. I'll look at it and say, oh, yeah, that's Frank Kern's magic model. That works really well, or that's the 4-day cash machine, or, there's all kinds of formulas that all these guys have built. They're great mousetraps. And in some cases, you can take one that's working in a totally different industry and just flip it to your stuff and it should work just fine as long as you've done your analysis. So Jill, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to comment to that because I have had 3 a.m. nights the last couple of nights trying to navigate car traffic. And it's kind of funny because it's helpful when you get it to work right, but there are some weird glitches about it
Yeah.
that I'm going to make a list of the glitches and share them with everybody and see if they're having the same things. It's like you can't backspace without losing everything. Like there's these certain little things that I noticed happen, but when you get it to work, it works.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. It
I
does have
like,
some little nuances.
yeah, yeah, that's what I noticed. I like what you said about the formula, and we can get into that, when we have our meeting. Is I think it's really important because in my industry, I'm not going to sell the furniture or whatever that I'm, producing for hotels online. But what I can sell are those secrets, and and that's what I like that, and I wanted to just comment about that.
Yeah.
That's really helpful.
Yeah. You have sometimes you're not selling like a physical product. In some cases, you're generating leads that maybe you're selling the leads to others or you're making referrals and you're getting money that way. There's a lot of different business models.
Hmm.
So it doesn't always have to be about, hard selling a product. But there's always that it's almost a cliche. They say the money's in the list. So
Hmm.
if you build a big list, you should be able to make money.
And that's what I want to focus on.
Yeah, and
But
and
we I don't want to keep you because we have our meeting later, but I wanted to comment on how helpful that is. Thank you.
okay, yeah, cool. There's money in the list, and this is something that most people leave so much money behind. They'll have their own product and they'll be building a list and they'll be selling products and that's great, but they're missing a huge opportunity that list they're not just going to buy your thing. Whatever your thing is, they might buy your thing, right? But that's not all they're ever going to buy. They're going to buy a whole lifetime full of shit. And if you can figure out, like, based on what they bought from you, what else they might need,
Mhm.
you don't have to build that stuff. All you have to do is go find those vendors and do exactly what I said here. Just cut a deal. Say, hey, and you're in the reverse order here. They have the product and you have the traffic.
Mhm.
Say, hey, if I bring you this traffic, what's that worth? What do you pay in a sales commission? And you make a deal with them. So it goes both ways.
Mhm.
I'll
Mhm.
reach out to somebody that's got a big audience to sell my thing. And then in turn, I'll be building my own big audience to reverse it and go out to other people that have things that my audience would benefit from. So once you get it cooking, it's just a tornado of opportunity.
Love that. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Pam, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a pretty good following, but they don't do anything.
Okay.
I've offered things from zero to 2,000 some dollars, and I really paid attention. Like I have meetups. The first 4,000 people who joined, I asked every single one of them, "Hi, thanks for joining. Love to know more about what you want." Blah blah blah. I heard from very few, but the one thing I kept hearing over and over again was, I have a telescope. It's sitting in my closet getting dust. I don't know how to use it. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to look for in the night sky. So I put together a 2-day event.
Hmm.
Did I get any takers? No. Now I understand some of the parts of what you just explained now better, but it's like, I mean, I offered a free meteor shower chart, which people love meteor showers. I got one person to
Okay.
get that. Like, and I was selling it before that, so
Huh.
I don't know. I've done a whole bunch of different things.
Yeah,
I really need like a path.
that sounds like the wrong audience, honestly. That would be my guess.
But they signed up for the meetups. They self-selected to join the meetup.
Okay, so let me give you an example here of a profitable market. There's three pillars to finding a profitable market. And one pillar is they have to want what you've got, right? They have to want it. The second thing is they have to have the money to pay for it. And the third thing is they have to have the willingness to part with the money to pay for it. That's value. So an example of this is a huge market is Skid Row in LA, right? If you're selling lobster, they probably all want it, right? They would pay for it because they see the value, but they don't have the money. They don't have the ability to pay for it. So if you're missing one of those pillars, the whole thing collapses. So either the market that you have doesn't have the money, which I don't know, or maybe they don't see the value, which again, I don't know, or there's got to be enough of them, which it sounds like you've got it now. You got at least one pillar going for you.
Yeah, and I've heard it said ready, willing, and able. Because even like Bill Gates, the whole book about this, Bill Gates wasn't willing to spend more than $20 at a whatever table. So they bumped him out of his room and gave it to the big whale who would gamble like crazy at this casino. Because
Yeah,
he wasn't willing.
yeah,
He had plenty of money. He was all that, but nope, didn't want to play more than $20 at a table.
yeah, yeah. So you gotta look at it that way. But then also you can take a step back. Just because they don't want to pay for what you have doesn't mean you can't make money with that audience. What you got to do is you got to figure out what product is worth them paying for that they can afford, even if it's not yours, and come back around and make that offer to them. But some way or another, if you have a big list, some way or another, you can make money with it. Like
Yeah,
even the example of Skid Row, if you just have to find a government agency that
Skid
will,
Row. I don't get that. I thought that was in jail. You're in jail.
well, no, that's like the slums of LA. It's like where people are sleeping on the street.
The
All right.
homeless camp.
Okay.
Yeah,
That helps me.
yeah. So, but if you can find like, let's say you find some agency that gets paid by a government agency to help those people, and you can bring all those people to that person, and he's going to make a boatload of money, he'll probably share a little bit with you. So there's always there's always a creative way, a creative solution to make money out of a list.
Yeah, I've talked to some people who had something like this guy has something called Life Ship. He'll send your DNA into to the moon. I guess was the last one. And I worked him. I was like, hey, I will. I got a great group. It's a meetup group. He would never have he would never connect me with like an affiliate for him. He so like
Well,
I feel like I keep hitting a hurdle
yeah,
after doing. I mean, and I've taken lots of training and I've gone as far as I can with them. And I'm like, okay, now what?
think about,
John,
yeah, go ahead, Tim.
John, I was going to say, Pam, I'm sure you won't mind me having. I think that was a very important lesson. Those three pillars that you mentioned. I think you should repeat them one more time because I don't think you can repeat them enough to this room. All right, I'm not picking on any of you. I'm just saying those are so important that John, I think you should repeat them one more time so
Okay.
everybody understands or can and it starts registered. There's a lot of people that doesn't register.
Yeah, yeah.
Say, yeah.
So the first thing to look at is it a big enough market? Is there enough people to justify your sales goal? So that's really number one. That's your first pillar. Is the market size big enough? If it's not, then you need to find a different market. The second one is there value there? Is there enough value that they would part with the money to get what you're offering? And the last one is, do they even have the money to part with? So they have to have the money to part with. They have to be willing to see the value to let go of the money to get the thing. And there has to be enough of them for that to work for you to have a viable business model. So that's
And I think all of us that should be our homework this week is to review that. Just saying,
yeah,
his opinion.
just take a look at what you're doing and just make sure it all adds up. So Arba, go ahead.
Hey John. So I'm gonna really challenge you.
Uh-oh, I'm waiting for that one.
Based on exactly what you just said, how did the Pet Rock and Cabbage Patch dolls become so famous or popular or money making? How do things like that? Stop laughing, Tim. I really want to know, based on what you just explained, what kind of crazy marketing?
Oh, I could answer that one, no sweat. I don't even have to
Thank you.
think about that one. The market size of idiots is massive. Plain and simple. You,
Okay.
I mean, the the cliche that comes to mind there is even a blind squirrel can get a nut. If there's a million nuts around you, even a blind squirrel can find one.
So basically, I mean, but it seems like there is a formula that reaches that massive group of people that will just buy stupidness.
Oh, absolutely. And it's probably the biggest market on the planet.
But it's a
Lottery
short,
tickets. Just give them a lottery ticket, Arb.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
that
don't see the value in a lottery ticket, but you think about it.
A lottery ticket has more value than a pet rock.
not
Okay.
much.
A little bit. I mean, a
Okay.
little bit.
It has at
A
least
chance. It has a better chance than the
yeah,
prop.
at least an objective, at least, whatever. But pet rocks, Cabbage Patch dolls, you name it, there's
And
Yeah, and
all
it's not the pet rock. It's not the feature. It's not the box and the little cardboard shavings and the rock. You're selling a novelty. You're selling a a talking point, a conversational item. You're also selling something, it's a pet, but you don't have to feed it, you don't have to pet it. You you, you can ignore it. So there when you get into the marketing, it's about the benefits. It's what's in it for them. And
but can I go out my own backyard and get one?
well, that's the novelty of it is like who the heck thought of this and
some
and
guy who wanted
actually
to get
had the
rid of a
guts to
lot of
put it
rocks.
out there.
There you go, Pam. Why don't you get into selling stars?
So when you have
Sorry, I'm
That's
gonna
out
offer
there.
just my elaboration real quick. So many people put out so many dumb things and they go nowhere. Every once in a while, one hits like Cabbage Patch or Tickle Me Elmo or Bet Rock. It's because the audience is the parents who want to make the child happy. So they go on a frenzy to get a limited quantity item that they know their kids want. So the key to those becoming huge fads is that you become the cool kid if you have the thing that your peers don't have. And so whatever it is, it's a Tickle Me Elmo, it's a Cabbage Patch Kid, it could be whatever. As long as all the kids want it and it's in limited supply and some kids have it, the other kids become desperate. And then the parents become desperate to make the kids happy. And that only happens when whatever gizmo you have is so desired by the peer group of the kids, and the parents have a compulsion to make those kids happy on a limited quantity thing that becomes impossible to get. Then they become the cool parents for having gotten the cool thing for their cool kids.
Mm.
Yeah, and a lot of times this I know probably a lot of females bought pet rocks, but it's more of a male thing because like just what Roger was saying there, that is a significance factor. And males are driven by significance, having something different, having something unique, having something so no one else has, being the first to get it. That's really a male buying trigger more than a female buying trigger. Females, like if you break it down, if you break down just human nature and you take two audiences, a male and a female, and if we could just boil all humanity into these two people and we ask them what's important to them, and whatever they said, it's superficial. And you say, "Oh, why is that important to you?" And then you get another layer deep, and you peel that onion 100 times. You will ultimately, for a man, you'll get down to what he wants is why he wants it is for significance. He wants to be looked up to. He wants to be the one that is in charge, the top of the pyramid. And the same thing, if you do the same process to a woman, you'll find that her core drivers is security. So you have security and significance are your two main core drivers of human, whatever you want to call it, human nature. Now, that's not 100%. You'll have some females that are really driven and really powerful, and they take up more of the male characteristics on that, and significance is a higher factor for them. And you'll have some men too that they're I don't know what to call it. They're insecure. And they'll find a successful female and they'll just lurk in the shadows and they have more female tendencies in that aspect. But just as a generality, it really does fit the pattern of significance for male, security for women. And that by no means do I say that to degrade women in any way. It's just human fact. It goes back to the caveman days. The the ultimate thing for a caveman was to be a hunter and kill the big animal and bring it back and feed the community, feed the village. Everyone worshipped him because he was important. That's significance. That's what I'm talking about. That primal driver. That was what it was all about. And you didn't find too many women that wanted to go out and kill a lion and bring it back for the village, right? They wanted to be protected. So the thing that they were attracted to was the big he-man that would protect them. And again, it's primal. It goes all the way back, to caveman days. And it's funny, not much has changed. We have a lot of technology at our fingertips, but if you really dig under the hood, we haven't really changed too much. And it's a little bit sad. So pretty pretty interesting. I was also going to share too, back to the whole thing about the pet rock and all that. It comes down to a unique selling proposition. And you got to admit, pet rock is a pretty unique selling proposition. Like if you say, "Yeah, I'm selling pet rocks," they're like, "What?" And they won't know anyone that has one. And they might just think, significance might just get the best of them and go, Oh yeah, I want to be the first on my block to have that. Boom, sale made, primal instinct done. You took advantage of a caveman, basically. And I know I haven't talked about Eric Lapham very often, but he texted me the other night and we've been talking. So I'm going to tell one of his stories. He basically does not like people that ask for money with no value, right? So beggars on the street, not his cup of tea. But he wound up giving a guy on the street money because he had a value proposition. He basically answered Eric in a way that no one else had done it or asked him in a way. And here's how it happened. The we'll just I don't know if this is proper etiquette, but we'll just call this guy a beggar. The beggar on the street had his cup out and Eric's walking by and the guy looks at Eric and he says, "Sir, what's the best nation in the world?" And Eric looked at him. He said, "The United States." And he said, "Nope, nope, that is not the best nation in the world, sir." And Eric says, "Well, what is the best nation in the world?" He said, "It's a donation." And he held his cup out. And Eric said, "Oh my God, that's too good." And he dropped a $20 bill in this guy's cup.
That's called stop the scroll. He
It,
stopped the stroll.
it's a unique selling proposition.
He just stopped them.
And if you got to look at your marketing this way, you have to figure out what's your thing that's going to be your donation. It's the donation. And it's work, this is the part that it's creative. This is also the part that a lot of people lack the creativity. They might be really good builders, they might be really good idea people or whatever, but they might lack creativity. And this is something that AI can really, really come to the rescue for, is coming up with unique ideas. Like you could pipe that in to Chat GPT or Perplexity, tell it the donation story, and say, "I think this was just incredible. I would like some things like this for my business. What could you help me with?" And see what it comes up with. I haven't done that, but that would be a really good exercise to see what it can come up with to help you promote your business. But you got to admit, that's a really good one. What's the best nation in the world, sir? It's going to totally catch you off guard. So it's pretty cool. I'm not gonna show it on here because it's like an hour long, but I will send you guys out the link to show you what I've created for the ClickBank offer. I finished it. It's almost an hour. It went a lot longer than I thought, but it's completely AI, and I did decide I got some feedback on it that it would be really good to have a front end where I come on and I tell everybody, that what you're about to see is an AI version of me. So they don't feel like, taken advantage of or whatever. So I did that. I created just a very short clip that I put on the front. And I said, what you're about to see is one of the most powerful revolutions, to come to business in a very long time, possibly in our whole lifetime. And I said, what you're about to see is an AI version of me giving this entire presentation. And I said, it might freak you out. You might think it's totally cool, but I'll check back in with you at the end. So I'm actually pre-framing them to watch the whole thing because they say I'm going to check back in with you at the end. So it's a subtle subconscious thing where I'm basically asking them to watch the whole thing. And I think it's going to work really well. And again, I think it's too long. It went from from the copy that the copywriter wrote for me. And I got to tell you, it was when I got the copy back from the copywriter, I looked at it, I'm like, there's no way in hell I'm gonna read that. It was just like spammy. It was greasy. I'm like, there's no way I'm coming across with my business and my offer like that. So I rewrote it, put it in my words, and it's still not 100% my style, but it's intolerance level. I can take it. So anyway, I'm going to do another one that's much shorter, that's me and my style, and we're going to split test them. But it's really cool. It's a really good example of how to create a really attention-grabbing video that's a long video. And I did it with images created by the Act Imager. Um, and it's got a lot of them. There's no image or no clip that's more than 5 seconds long. And there's a shitload of them. It's like the whole thing is just inundated with these images. It's going from one image to the next. And most of the images I actually took into the Clipster or the Vidco and I animated them. And it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. One of the testimonials, all I had was a headshot of the guy, and I put in, he's speaking from stage. And I swear to God, it looks like the guy is live on stage in a 5 second clip. I'm like, holy shit, that was amazing. All this stuff I didn't have, and even stuff like there was parts of it where I needed to be on stage, like speaking to an audience. And I've done this, a bunch of times, but I don't have the footage of it. So I went into the precision image model where I've got me and I said, put me on stage, looking over my shoulder, out talking to an audience. So I got the still image and then I put it into the Vidco Clipster and it literally brought it to life. It looks like it's me speaking live on stage. I'm like, holy crap, this is freaking awesome. So it's pretty impressive. It looks really like a professionally done video. There is a couple of things. What I learned in the process, I learned how to control better the clone. And like when I look at it, I know now what I could change to make it better. But there's some parts where the speed of the voice, like either slows down too much or speeds up too much. And now I know how to control that. So, on the next round, it's going to be a lot better. So, all right, any more questions? Arba, I know you had your hand up. Did I get you answered or?
Well, Brady answered it, and you kind of answered it as well. That I did watch the whole thing, and yeah, it's way too long. And I was gonna ask, did you actually put it through, maybe put it back through AI to say take out repetition?
Brady
Because
actually did that. I haven't gone back to regenerate it yet, but he did that for me. He took it in.
yeah, because there was a lot that I caught because I'm like kind of keen to that. And then the other thing, Vidco, Clipster, whatever you're talking about, I'm vaguely remembering. I know it's not in Quantum, correct?
Correct.
It's
Correct.
something separate, but you sent us
It-
something.
yeah, it's a free giveaway. Basically, it's a lead magnet for me.
Okay.
And the actual software is called Vidco. I bought a white label version of Vidco and I went to white label it as Clipster. So when I first rolled it out, I rolled it out as Clipster, which was going to be like a unique product only to me. And I was going to give it away to everyone for free as a lead magnet.
Mhm.
The thing was, the white label never really worked right. So I didn't want to give away something that didn't work right. So I just rolled back and I just flat out just gave away the Vidco software with
Is
their.
that is there an a link to it within Quantum, or it was something that I have to scroll through my emails to find?
I will do that. I'll put a link in there for you. I'll,
Thank you.
I'll make one of the external tools in Quantum so it'll be easy.
Thank you. Yeah, Brady answered it. I thought it's like it's one of those things I vaguely remembered it, but
It
you get 100 emails, and I was like, where
it
is this thing?
it's really cool. You literally there's a tab in it that says image to video.
Hmm.
You click the image to video, you find the image on your hard drive and upload it and just tell it what you want it to do. And it'll literally bring that image to life. It is awesome.
That'll be my next thing. I
Oh,
will try that and let you know.
it's so much fun. And it runs on credits.
Right.
Not
I even paid. That's why I'm saying I remember it because I paid. I put some credits on it. Now I'm like, is that what he's talking about?
yeah, yeah. And I bought I think it was 55,000 credits for $50
Mm,
and I used them all up and I had to buy another $50 worth, but I just barely nipped into the second batch to do all those videos in that hour-long presentation.
mm.
So to do an hour-long presentation, figure about $50 worth of credits to make a boatload of videos, little
It's
video clips.
still cheaper than paying a video editor.
Oh God, you'd pay for one of those clips, you'd pay $50.
I know.
Easy. Very easy. So anyway, I will send that out. Anything else before we wrap up?
Yeah, I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. So last night I was working with Lovo, Lobe, Lovo.
Okay.
Okay, so that's like the competition to the other one. I forgot what the one. But the bottom line was that they're offering right now $25 a month paid annually. You get 5 hours of video product per month. Do you think that would be cost effective? And also, too, the other situation is, are we do we really need 5 hours of continuing video per month?
Yeah,
Or
I'm not actually familiar with that product. And that would roll back to you as a question of do you need that?
that's where I was my quandary. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, sometimes like if it's something where it's a special offer, I used to do this with deposit photos. Deposit photos is where I bought my stock photos from. And if you just needed a photo, it'd cost you like, $5, which is pretty cheap. But occasionally they would do a deal where they would give you 100 photos for $80 and you could bank them, you could spend it over a year. And even if I didn't need a photo at the time, I knew, well, yeah, and that's your time frame. I'm going to use that 100 photos, and it would cost me $500. So I'd just pre-buy it for 80, and then they were there, they were banked, and I could just, use them whenever I wanted them. So sometimes when you have a bank of something, it gets you to use more than you normally would if you had to go pay full value and buy them piece at a time. So it's totally up to like your needs. So, all right. Well, if that's it, let's wrap it up. Some of you guys are on the crypto call. I've got my XRP Army t-shirt on today, so I'm all geared up for our crypto call this afternoon. Um, but anyway, we'll be back on regular time next week, and you guys have a great week. Get out there, look at your competition, and start working on, building your lists and creating your marketing, and well, let's make some money. It's summertime. It's time to make some money. All right, guys, have a great week. We will talk to you soon.